Moving on to the next item, which is item number 8, which is the Regional Coordinated Transportation Plan Update. Kari Hackett will be making the presentation. Kari, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Kari Hackett, Manager of Special Studies here at H-GAC. And today it's my pleasure to share some information with you. And this is a very brief, high-level overview of a very complicated and detailed planning process. And I would like to first call your attention to the background paper that was included in your packet under this agenda item. And at the very end of that background paper, at the bottom of the page, under current situation, there's some key words that I want to highlight for you right now, and I hope to come back to these at the end of my presentation. First of all, your involvement is encouraged in this process. It talks about some ways that you can get involved. We want to encourage you to become a local champion in your particular areas, and also to pass the word along. So to sort of put this into context this morning, as I was driving here down the Gulf Freeway this morning, stuck in traffic, and I observed to my left, the HOV lane was flowing very smoothly this morning. So the buses were like zooming by, and the car pools and the van pools. And I was thinking, well, maybe I should have caught the bus here today. Because about that time, the message sign flashed up that there was an accident at Griggs, and there was left lanes closed. And I said, this is going to get worse before it gets better. So I said, well, I can take that detour and go 610 south and come in that way. And it must have been about 100 or 1,000 maybe other people who thought the same thing at the same time, because when I got to 610, that was backed up. The good news is that by the time I made the turn on 288, it was flowing pretty clear, smoothly, typical for a Friday morning traffic situation. So the reason I said that, to kind of paint a picture, I was reminded that the HOV lane system that we have in place today was designed more than 3 decades ago. I remember seeing lines on a map that kind of outlined where this system was going to be. So it started with a plan. It was implemented over a long period of time, and it's been sustained. So the plan that I'm going to describe to you briefly this morning is in a similar situation. We call it our Regionally Coordinated Transportation Plan because the region that this covers is the 13-county H-GAC planning region. So it's a little bit larger than the area that you're used to dealing with for the 8-county transportation management area. It's coordinated in the sense that there's a group of people similar to Transtar. There's people working behind the scenes that kind of make these things happen. So there's a team of individuals, professionals that are working to make the system work together better. So it's coordinated in that sense. And we're working on an update to that plan. Every 5 years we're required to do this. And this is part of a statewide planning process that covers in the state of Texas at least, is coordinated through the Texas Department of Transportation and their public transportation division. The regional transportation plan that you all approved earlier this year is a 20-year long-term planning horizon. It's a multi-dimensional plan. In other words, multimodal. It covers all the different modes of transportation in our region. So our coordination plan that I'm talking about today is a subset of that. It's just a small piece of a big system. Just like my perspective on the Gulf Freeway this morning was just one driver's perspective of a larger system. And within Transtar, they're looking at these incidents all over the regional roadway system every day. So our coordination plan is a part of that. It was included as Appendix L in the last plan. It includes recommendations from various level or sub-regional transit plans that have been developed over years. And as these new and improved transit services come online, there's a process that we go through in terms of monitoring and evaluation to make sure that they are successful. And if they are, then they become part of this RTP and TIP, Transportation Improvement Program process. So it's a 5-year, we call it a Transit and Human Services Plan. within the state of Texas a few years ago. Some of y'all might remember House Bill 3588 required that we do this and coordinate with the human services agencies. I want to point out that this is focused, this planning process is parallel planning, but it's focused in areas or during times when traditional public transportation is either not available or not adequate. Excuse me. So I mentioned the activities within the state of Texas. On the national level, that actually came about a little bit later in time, with several initiatives under the umbrella of United We Ride, also the CTAA, or the Community Transportation Association of America, and the National Center for Mobility Management. So there's a lot of resources available there today that point out national best practices. And we've tried to incorporate some of those into the work that we're doing here. Within the Houston area, we have a regional transit coordination subcommittee that was designated through our technical advisory committee, which reports to you all, and they have actually developed a new action plan. Action plan. We are in the process of implementing some of the recommendations from that action plan. We've been doing it for a while now, but as you know, priorities change from year to year, and so we have to update the action plan. Some of the strategies in the current action plan point out the necessity, the importance, to work with local elected officials and leaders in our community in order to implement this plan in a timely manner, but also to sustain it over a longer period of time. And so these are some of the key partners in that planning process today. And we want to emphasize that going forward, we'll be asking for your help. You folks that are sitting around today, because we cannot accomplish these tasks without your active involvement. And a little bit later, I'll share some information with you that shows the effectiveness of that particular involvement in just a couple of instances in our region. These are the essential stakeholders in this planning process. These are not new to this type of planning. But what's different about it this time around is that we're being asked to not just work with representatives, or in other words, leaders of organizations that represent seniors. We're encouraged to actually meet with and talk with the seniors themselves, with persons with disabilities, with persons with low incomes. And so we're involved in a more inclusive transportation planning process than we have been in the past, which makes it more challenging, but also makes it more interesting. This graphic describes what some people call the funding silos that have been in existence for many years. And it's the different funding streams that have been used to mitigate some of the transportation-related challenges for seniors and for persons with disabilities and so forth, for people that live in some of the rural areas. So they've been segmented, they've been isolated, they have separate funding streams, separate requirements, and we're trying to figure out how to make all of these different components work together better. So the top of the bar charts indicate the funding that was included in our transportation improvement program for several years. It ranged between, I believe, $9 and about $12 million. And so for planning purposes, we've included an estimate in our regional transportation plan that says we need about $15 million to allow us to sustain what's out there today, but also to expand it. Because some of the services that are out there today are actually experiencing overloads. Here's one example of one of the success stories in our region. Connect Transit operates public transportation services in southern Brazoria County and Galveston County in terms of fixed routes and so forth. But what's impressive, in my opinion, about this growth chart is that during the last 5 years, after the time that local elected officials became part of that process to secure local funding that could be used to leverage federal fundings and bring more resources into that area, a significant increase in ridership over that period of time, and it continues to grow. And I want to point out that these are our suburban communities. These are, edge cities, what some people call them, Lake Jackson, Angleton, Freeport, Texas City. So primarily outside of the metro service area. Here's another graphic illustration of that growth. This one is in Fort Bend County. And what you see again, over time, particularly the last 5 years or so, significant growth in their commuter services. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we have a strong leader from that area, Commissioner Patterson. He's been at the table with some of the other stakeholders for many years. And actually, I was in a meeting, I remember, Commissioner, not too long ago, when you, I believe, told Mr. Sedlak that at the end of the day, the red tape doesn't matter as long as we get more funding into Fort Bend County for our public transportation services. So what my point is that over time, with the cooperation of the leadership, the transit operators, the Health and Human Service agencies, these services make a big difference in the lives of people who might otherwise be isolated. In terms of the academics, we have not really quantified the benefits to society for a person to be able to get to a job that they didn't have that access before, or for one of our seniors to be able to get to medical care that he or she didn't have access to before. And so those are some of the things that we're going to be working on in this upcoming plan. So in the current situation now, I mentioned that we're encouraging this peer-to-peer kind of exchange of elected officials, those that have experience in setting up these kind of programs, that understand the benefits and the real costs. We're looking to form a regional mobility manager, and in fact, Harris County Transit today, and through the Harris County Rides program, is providing or starting to provide that function in terms of reaching out beyond Harris County for the public good. The Seamless Fare project, Metro is active in that area now. They'll be implementing kind of a mobile application very soon, and that's my understanding, that will make it a little bit easier for folks to purchase fare media or purchase rides using their smartphones. And the regional transit information is something that we've worked on for a while now. And it was one of the things that was pointed out many years ago as lacking in our region. A lot of people didn't know what we had, where it was, how much it cost, or who to talk to. And so the small group within this transit coordination subcommittee developed these regional transit guides. And we have these available for each of the counties in our area. This is just an example. This information is also available online. The plan itself, the last plan that was adopted and approved, is available online. My point is, it's on our website. We can print copies as many as you need. Just let us know ahead of time. We print on demand. And, I know some people prefer paper. Some people prefer to go to the computers. If you don't want the paper, you don't want the computer, we got it available on CD-ROMs also. So in terms of the next steps, where we are today, we have a project grant agreement that's being approved at H-GAC to work with TxDOT going forward. They're actually providing funding that helps this planning process to continue outside of the transportation management area. These are some of the deliverables in that grant agreement with TxDOT. We have to develop each of these different activities as we go along. The final report will be due in February of 2017. Now, some of you might be wondering right now, well, what can I do to help? And I included this graphic as a reminder that if, regardless of if you are an advocate for more roads, more highways, more transit buses or light rail lines, or bicycle and pedestrian facilities, if you think about it, we're all part of a large transportation system. And in order for that system to work more effectively and more efficiently, we have to work together. And so this little illustration is teamwork, something that I borrowed from somebody else. But the point is that each team member is valuable. They just contribute in different ways. So they're bridging a gap. They're all working together. Now, You may be wondering how you can get involved or what you can do to help. I want to go back to the background paper again, where it says you can get involved today by visiting our website. And if you have 5 minutes to spare, there's a little video that's available on that website that kind of explains all of this a lot better than I can in 10 minutes. But it has a lot of information that'll sort of give you more background and so forth and give you a better idea. It also includes some of the key leaders in our region in terms of folks that have worked with our public transportation systems for years. Mr. Fickens, for example, Paulette Shelton. And the point is that we would like for you to not only get familiar with what we're doing, but also to share this information with others in your local communities. We're trying to generate some synergy as we go forward. And with that, I appreciate your attention this morning. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Hackett. Are there any questions? If none, thank you for your presentation. I do appreciate it.